The October sun painted Nashville in golden hues as Reba McEntire parked her black Cadillac in front of the recording studio. At 68, the queen of country music still radiated the same energy that had made her a legend. Her red hair shimmered in the morning light, and her green eyes maintained that determined sparkle that had won millions of fans over 5 decades of career. "Good morning, Miss Reba," greeted Jake Peterson, the studio doorman, with the warm smile typical of Tennessee folk. "Good morning, honey. How's the family doing?" she replied, always attentive to everyone around her. Inside the studio, her team was already prepared for another day of recording the new album. Reba had decided to include some songs that spoke about nostalgia and lost friendships, themes that lately occupied her mind with growing frequency. During a break between recordings, she found herself flipping through an album of old photographs that her assistant, Jennifer Coleman, had brought for inspiration. The black and white images showed a young Reba in Chalky, Oklahoma, her hometown. In one of the photos, she appeared at 8 years old, smiling beside a boy with dark hair and kind eyes. "Tommy," she murmured, gently touching the photo with her finger. Tommy Williams had been her best friend during childhood. They had grown up together in the vast plains of Oklahoma, running through wheat fields, fishing in the creek that cut through the McEntire family property, and dreaming about the future. Tommy always said he would become a veterinarian to care for the region's animals, while Reba sang to the cows and dreamed of Nashville stages. "What are you thinking about, Reba?" asked David Harrison, her music producer for over 20 years. "Just remembering old friends," she replied, closing the album with a sigh. "Sometimes I wonder what happened to the people I knew before fame. Do they know I still think about them?" The afternoon passed between recordings, but Reba's mind continued wandering through memories. She remembered how Tommy defended her from school bullies, how they made promises to be friends forever, and how life had separated them when she moved to Nashville at 18 to pursue her musical dream. Arriving home that night, Reba settled into her favorite armchair in the living room, with a cup of chamomile tea in her hands. The mansion in Brentwood, with its country decor and gold records adorning the walls, felt strangely empty, despite all the success surrounding her. She opened her laptop and, almost without thinking, typed "Thomas Williams, Oklahoma" into the search engine. Hundreds of results appeared, but none seemed to be her Tommy. She tried different combinations. Tommy Williams Chalky, Thomas Williams Veterinarian, Oklahoma, but the searches led nowhere. Maybe it's time to let a professional handle this, she thought, remembering the private investigator who had helped her with some legal matters years ago. The next morning, Reba called Robert Chen, a private investigator known for his discretion and efficiency. Robert had worked with several celebrities and understood the importance of maintaining privacy. "Miss McEntire, what can I do for you?" Robert asked in his professional but friendly tone. "I need you to find someone for me, Robert. A childhood friend I lost touch with many years ago. His name is Thomas Williams, but everyone called him Tommy. He would be around 67 or 68 years old now, born in Oklahoma." "I understand. Any other details that might help? Family information, last known location, profession?" Reba provided all the information she could remember. Tommy's parents' names, the school they attended together, his dream of becoming a veterinarian, and that they lost contact when she moved to Nashville in 1975. "Give me a week, Miss McEntire. I'll do my best to find your friend." During the following days, Reba threw herself into work with renewed energy, but her mind constantly returned to Tommy. She wondered what he looked like now, if he had achieved his dream of becoming a veterinarian, if he had married, had children. The uncertainty was eating at her. David Harrison noticed her distraction during recordings. "Reba, you seem different these days. More nostalgic. Is everything okay?" "I'm trying to find an old friend," she confided. "Someone very important from my past. I guess I'm realizing that success means nothing if you can't share it with the people who knew you before you became who you are." Jennifer Coleman, always attentive to Reba's needs, approached with a cup of coffee. "Miss Reba, if you don't mind me asking, what was this friend like?" Reba's eyes lit up as she began to share memories. "Tommy was the kindest boy I ever knew. When other kids made fun of my singing, he would tell them to stop. When I was scared of thunder, he would sit with me on the porch until the storm passed. He had this way of making everyone feel special, you know? He sounds like a wonderful person, Jennifer said softly. He was, and I abandoned him when I came to Nashville. I was so focused on my career that I never looked back. Now I wonder if he ever thought about me, if he followed my career, if he's proud of what I became. On Friday afternoon, Robert Chen's call came. Reba was in the studio but immediately stepped out to take the call privately. "Miss McEntire, I found him." Reba felt her heart race. "Where is he? Is he okay?" There was a pause on the line that made her stomach churn. "Miss McEntire, I think it would be better if we met in person to discuss this. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning?" The concern in Robert's voice was evident, and Reba knew the news wasn't entirely good. Saturday morning found Reba sitting in Robert Chen's office in downtown Nashville, her hands nervously clasped in her lap. The investigator's office was modest but professional, with certificates on the walls and stacks of case files on his desk. "Please, Robert, just tell me, is Tommy alive?" Robert opened a manila folder and pulled out several documents. "Yes, he's alive, but Miss McEntire, the situation is complicated." He slid a photograph across the desk. It showed an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, sitting in a wheelchair in what appeared to be a common room. "This is Thomas Williams, age 67. He's been a resident at Sunset Manor, an assisted living facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the past 8 years. Reba studied the photo, trying to reconcile the image with her childhood memories. "He looks so different. What happened to him?" "According to the medical records I was able to obtain, Mr. Williams was diagnosed with early-onset dementia at age 55. He worked as a veterinarian in a small clinic in Broken Arrow until he could no longer perform his duties safely." "Dementia?" Reba's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes. His condition has been gradually deteriorating. He has moments of clarity, but they're becoming less frequent." Robert paused before continuing. "Miss McEntire, there's more. According to the facility's records, Mr. Williams hasn't received a visitor in over 3 years." The words hit Reba like a physical blow. "No visitors? What about his family?" "He never married, had no children. His parents passed away in the early 2000s. He has a distant cousin in California who pays for his care but hasn't visited since he was admitted to the facility." Reba stood up abruptly and walked to the window, looking out at the busy Nashville street below. Cars passed by, people hurried along sidewalks. Life continued its normal pace while her childhood friend sat alone and forgotten in a nursing home. "What kind of facility is it?" she asked, still looking out the window. "Sunset Manor is adequate. It's not the worst place, but it's certainly not the best. It's understaffed, like many facilities of its kind. The residents receive basic care, but there's little personal attention or stimulation." Reba turned around, her decision already made. "I want to see him. Miss McEntire, I should warn you that he might not recognize you. Dementia affects people differently, and it's been almost 50 years since you last saw each other. I don't care if he doesn't recognize me, Robert. He's alone, and he was once the most important person in my world. I'm going to see him." Robert nodded understandingly. "Would you like me to arrange a meeting with the facility's director first? Given your profile, it might be wise to handle this discreetly." "Yes, please do that. But Robert, I want to see Tommy as soon as possible." After leaving Robert's office, Reba drove aimlessly through Nashville's streets, her mind racing. She thought about all the years she had spent building her career, all the awards and accolades, while Tommy slowly lost himself to a cruel disease, alone and forgotten. She pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and called her longtime friend and fellow country music star, Dolly Parton. If anyone would understand her emotional turmoil, it would be Dolly. "Reba, honey, how are you doing?" Dolly's warm voice was exactly what Reba needed to hear. "Dolly, I need to talk to someone. Do you have a few minutes?" "Of course, sugar. What's going on?" Reba told Dolly about finding Tommy and his current situation. Dolly listened without interrupting, making occasional sounds of sympathy and understanding. "Oh, Reba, that breaks my heart," Dolly said when Reba finished. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to see him. I don't know what else to do, but I can't just leave him there alone." "You're doing the right thing, honey. Even if he doesn't recognize you, Your presence might bring him some comfort. And even if it doesn't, you'll know you tried. I'm scared, Dolly. What if he's angry that I never looked for him before? What if he doesn't remember our friendship at all? Reba McEntire, you listen to me. You were a young girl chasing your dreams, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can't carry guilt for living your life. What matters now is that you found him and you're going to be there for him. After talking to Dolly, Reba felt a bit more centered. She drove home and immediately began making plans. She called Robert to arrange the meeting with the facility director, cleared her schedule for the next week, and spent the evening going through old photos and memorabilia from her childhood in Oklahoma. That night, she sat at her piano and began playing a melody that had been in her head all day. The words came naturally. Old friends, where do they go when the years have passed us by? Old friends, do they still know the dreams we shared when we were young and full of hope? She recorded the melody on her phone, thinking it might become a song for the album. But more than that, it felt like a message she wanted to send to Tommy, wherever his mind might be wandering. Sunday morning, Robert called with arrangements. Miss McEntire, I've spoken with Patricia Williams. No relation to Mr. Williams, just coincidentally the same last name. She's the director of Sunset Manor. She's agreed to meet with you tomorrow afternoon. She seems like a caring person, genuinely concerned about her residents. Thank you, Robert. Did you tell her who I am? I identified you, yes. She was surprised, to say the least. But she's agreed to maintain discretion. She understands the sensitive nature of the situation. Reba spent Sunday evening packing for the trip to Tulsa. She included the old photo album, hoping some visual cues might help spark Tommy's memory. She also packed some of her CDs, wondering if music might reach him in ways that words couldn't. As she prepared for bed, Reba looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a successful woman who had achieved beyond her wildest childhood dreams, but she also saw someone who had perhaps lost touch with what truly mattered in life. Tomorrow, she would face her past, and hopefully bring some light into the life of someone who had once meant everything to her. Monday morning dawned crisp and clear as Reba loaded her SUV for the drive to Tulsa. She had chosen to drive rather than fly, wanting time to think and prepare mentally for what lay ahead. The 5-hour journey would take her through familiar territory, past landscapes that held decades of memories. Jennifer Coleman had offered to accompany her, but Reba felt this was something she needed to do alone, at least initially. She had promised to call if she needed support. As she drove west on Interstate 40, the urban sprawl of Nashville gave way to rolling hills and farmland. The autumn colors were spectacular. Brilliant reds, golds, and oranges painted the countryside like a masterpiece. It reminded her of the Oklahoma autumns of her childhood, when she and Tommy would collect colorful leaves and press them between the pages of books. Around noon, she stopped at a small diner in Arkansas, the kind of place that served homemade pie and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. The waitress, a woman about Reba's age with kind eyes and graying hair, recognized her immediately. "Well, I'll be. You're Reba McEntire," the woman exclaimed, but kept her voice respectfully low. "Yes, ma'am, I am," Reba replied with a smile. "Honey, your music has gotten me through some tough times. Fancy was playing on the radio the night I left my no-good husband and drove away with nothing but my kids and $27. The waitress's eyes misted over. "That song gave me courage. I'm so glad it helped you," Reba said genuinely. "How are you doing now?" "Oh, I'm doing just fine. Got my own place, raised 3 kids who turned out good, and I've been working here for 15 years. Sometimes life gives you exactly what you need when you need it." As Reba continued her journey, the waitress's words stayed with her. Sometimes life gives you exactly what you need when you need it. Maybe this reunion with Tommy was happening at exactly the right time for both of them. She reached Tulsa in the late afternoon and checked into a modest hotel near the facility. She had chosen not to stay at one of the luxury hotels downtown, preferring to remain close to Tommy and maintain a low profile. At 4 p.m., she arrived at Sunset Manor. The building was a single-story brick structure surrounded by well-maintained gardens. It wasn't luxurious, but it appeared clean and welcoming. A sign by the entrance read, "Sunset Manor, where every resident is family." Patricia Williams met her in the lobby. She was a woman in her early 50s with silver-streaked hair and intelligent, compassionate eyes. Despite sharing a last name with Tommy, she explained that they were not related. "Miss McEntire, thank you for coming. I have to admit, in 20 years of running care facilities, this is a first for me. Please call me Reba, and thank you for agreeing to see me on such short notice." Patricia led her to a private office filled with plants and family photos. "Would you like some coffee or tea before we talk?" "Coffee would be wonderful, thank you." As they settled in, Patricia's expression became serious. "Reba, I want to be honest with you about Tommy's condition. He has good days and bad days. Some mornings he wakes up thinking he's still 30 years old and ready to go to work at the veterinary clinic. Other days he doesn't recognize his own reflection. How is he today?" "Today is actually one of his better days. He was asking about his patients this morning. Cats and dogs that existed 30 years ago, but he seemed genuinely concerned about them. He even asked about a girl named Reba, who used to sing to his animals." Reba's breath caught. "He remembers me. He remembers a Reba from his past. Whether he'll connect you to those memories, I honestly can't say. Dementia is unpredictable." Patricia showed Reba through the facility. It was clean but institutional, with the inevitable smell of disinfectant and the sounds of television programs playing in common areas. Some residents sat in wheelchairs along the hallways, some alert and curious about the visitor, others staring vacantly into space. "We do our best with limited resources," Patricia explained. "We have activities, bingo, music therapy, craft time, but we're understaffed. Many residents spend most of their time in their rooms or sitting in the common areas." They paused outside a room marked T. Williams, 217. "He's probably napping right now," Patricia said. "He usually takes an afternoon rest. Would you like to come back this evening, or would you prefer to wait until tomorrow morning?" "I'd like to see him now, if that's okay, even if he's sleeping." Patricia knocked gently and opened the door. The room was small but clean, with a single bed, a dresser, and a chair by the window. An older man sat in the chair looking out at the garden. His hair was completely gray and his frame was thinner than Reba remembered, but she recognized him immediately. "Tommy?" she said softly. He turned toward the sound, his eyes focusing slowly on her face. For a long moment he simply stared, and Reba wondered if she should have listened to Robert's warnings about him not recognizing her. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his weathered face. "Well, I'll be damned," he said in a voice that was older and raspier, but unmistakably Tommy's. "If it isn't little Reba Sue McEntire, did you finally come to take me to one of your concerts?" Reba's eyes filled with tears as she heard Tommy speak her childhood nickname. Only her family and Tommy had ever called her Reba Sue. She moved closer to his chair, not wanting to startle him but unable to contain her emotion. "Hello, Tommy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "How did you know it was me?" Tommy's smile widened, and for a moment the years seemed to melt away. "Are you kidding me? I'd know those green eyes anywhere. Plus, you're still the prettiest redhead in Oklahoma. Well, I guess you're from Tennessee now, aren't you?" Patricia Williams stood in the doorway, amazed. In all her years of care work, she had never seen someone with Tommy's level of dementia have such clear recognition of someone from their distant past. "Tommy, this is quite a surprise," Patricia said gently. "Do you remember who Reba is?" "Of course I remember. This is Reba Sue, my best friend from when we were kids. She used to sing to my daddy's cattle." Tommy's eyes sparkled with clarity that had been absent for months. She always said she was going to be famous someday, and look at her now. Reba knelt beside his chair, taking his weathered hands in hers. "Tommy, I'm so sorry it took me so long to find you. I should have looked for you years ago. Now don't you go feeling guilty about that," Tommy said firmly, his voice carrying the same protective tone she remembered from childhood. "You had dreams to chase, and I'm proud of you for chasing them. I've heard your songs on the radio, you know. Every time one comes on, I tell everyone, 'That's my friend Reba Sue singing.'" Patricia quietly excused herself, giving them privacy while staying close enough to help if needed. "Tommy, tell me about your life. Did you become a veterinarian like you always wanted?" Tommy's face lit up. "I did. I had my own clinic in Broken Arrow for 30 years. helped birth more calves and puppies than I could count. Remember how we used to talk about me taking care of animals and you singing? Well, we both made it, didn't we? For the next hour, they talked about their childhood memories. Tommy's recall of their shared past was remarkably sharp. He remembered the day Reba fell out of the old oak tree, and he carried her home on his back. He remembered her singing Amazing Grace at the church Christmas pageant when she was 9. He remembered promising each other they would never forget their friendship, no matter where life took them. "Do you remember the last day we saw each other?" Reba asked. Tommy's expression grew thoughtful. "You were leaving for Nashville. You were so excited, but you were scared too. I told you that no matter how famous you got, you'd always be Reba Sue to me. You did say that. And you told me you'd always be proud of me no matter what. And I have been," Tommy said simply. "Every single day." As the evening progressed, Patricia returned to check on them. She was amazed at Tommy's sustained clarity. "I haven't seen him this alert and engaged in months," she told Reba privately. "Whatever this reunion is doing for him, it's remarkable." Reba made arrangements to return the next morning. But before leaving, she wanted to do something special. She pulled out her phone and opened her music app. "Tommy, would you like to hear some of my songs? The ones that might not play on the radio as often?" "I'd love that, Reba Sue." She played The Greatest Man I Never Knew, a song about her father, and watched Tommy's face as he listened intently to every word. When it ended, there were tears in his eyes. "That's beautiful, honey. Your voice got even prettier than it was when we were kids." Then she played Fancy, and Tommy surprised her by singing along with parts of the chorus. "That one plays on the radio all the time," he explained. "I always turn it up when it comes on." As visiting hours came to an end, Reba promised to return first thing in the morning. "Tommy, I want you to know that I'm going to make sure you're taken care of properly. You shouldn't be alone like this. Now, Reba Sue, don't you worry about me. I'm doing just fine." "No, Tommy, you're not fine, and that's not your fault, but I'm here now and I'm going to help." That evening at her hotel, Reba called her manager, Nancy Rodriguez, and explained the situation. "Nancy, I want to explore what options we have. Can we move him to a better facility? Can we hire private care? What are the legalities involved? Reba, let me make some calls. If his cousin has legal guardianship, we'll need to work with them. But there are always options when resources aren't a limitation." Next, she called Patricia Williams at home. "Patricia, I hope you don't mind me calling, but I have some questions about Tommy's care." "Not at all. I'm actually glad you called. I've been running care facilities for 20 years, and what I witnessed today was extraordinary. Tommy's recognition of you and his sustained clarity was remarkable. What does that mean for his condition? It means that meaningful connections can sometimes break through the fog of dementia, at least temporarily. It doesn't cure the disease, but it can provide windows of clarity and peace. What you gave him today was a gift. I want to give him more than just a day, Patricia. I want to ensure he has the best possible care for whatever time he has left. There are definitely better facilities available, with more staff, more activities, and specialized dementia care. But Reba, I have to tell you, moving someone with dementia can be traumatic. This is his home now and he's comfortable here. Then what if we brought better care to him? What if we could improve the facility?" There was a pause. "That would be significant. We always struggle with funding. Better staff-to-patient ratios, specialized programs, updated equipment. There's so much we could do with more resources." Reba made a decision that would change not only Tommy's life, but the lives of dozens of other forgotten residents. "Patricia, what would it cost to transform Sunset Manor into the kind of place you've always dreamed it could be?" The next morning, Reba arrived at Sunset Manor with a van full of supplies and a heart full of determination. She had stopped at a music store and bought a portable keyboard, and at a craft store for art supplies, puzzles, and games. If she was going to spend time with Tommy, she wanted to make it meaningful for him and the other residents. Tommy was having breakfast in the dining hall when she arrived, sitting alone at a table by the window. His recognition of her was immediate and warm. "There's my famous friend," he called out, loud enough for other residents to hear. "Everyone, this is Reba Sue, the one I told you about who sings on the radio." Several other residents looked over with interest. An elderly woman named Dorothy Henderson, who Patricia later explained had been a music teacher for 40 years, smiled brightly. "Are you really Reba McEntire? I used to play your songs for my students." What followed was the most meaningful morning Reba had experienced in years. She set up the keyboard in the common room and began playing familiar country songs. Tommy sat in the front row, singing along with surprising accuracy to songs from decades past. Other residents joined in, some remembering words to songs they hadn't sung in years. Dorothy Henderson asked if she could play something, and her arthritic fingers still managed to produce beautiful melodies on the keyboard. "Music is the last thing to leave us," she told Reba. "Even when we forget everything else, we remember the songs." An elderly man named Frederick Johnson, who Patricia explained rarely spoke anymore, suddenly began singing "Your Cheatin' Heart" in a rich baritone voice. His daughter, who was visiting, began crying, explaining that he had been a semi-professional singer in his youth but hadn't sung a note in 3 years. "This is what music therapy could do if we had regular programs," Patricia whispered to Reba. "Look at them, they're all so alive and engaged." During a quiet moment with Tommy, Reba broached the subject that had been on her mind all night. "Tommy, how would you feel if this place got some improvements? Better activities, more staff, nicer rooms?" Tommy looked around the room, which despite its limitations he clearly considered home. "That would be nice for everyone, I suppose. But Reba, Sue, you don't need to worry about me. I'm not going anywhere and I'm not unhappy. But you're alone, Tommy. You sit in your room most days with nothing to do." "I'm not alone," Tommy said with the simple wisdom that sometimes comes with age and illness. "I've got my memories, and now I've got you back. Plus, there are good people here. Dorothy plays piano sometimes, and Frederick tells stories about his singing days. We take care of each other." That afternoon, while Tommy napped, Reba met privately with Patricia Williams and Nancy Rodriguez, who had driven up from Nashville with a team of lawyers and financial advisors. "Here's what I want to do," Reba announced. "I want to establish a foundation that will not only improve Sunset Manor, but create a model that can be replicated at other facilities. I want to fund music therapy programs, hire additional staff, upgrade facilities, and most importantly, create volunteer programs that connect seniors with the community." Patricia's eyes widened. "Reba, that's incredibly generous, but the cost would be enormous. I have enormous resources. And what good is money if you can't use it to help people you care about?" Tommy is just one person, but he represents thousands of seniors who are sitting alone in facilities across the country, forgotten by the world. Nancy Rodriguez had done her homework overnight. "We've researched the legal requirements and the costs. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar commitment, but it's absolutely feasible. We could start here and then expand to other facilities." Over the next few days, Reba split her time between visiting Tommy and working on the foundation plans. She hired contractors to assess what improvements could be made to Sunset Manor, brought in specialists to evaluate the needs of residents with dementia, and began interviewing potential staff members. Word of her presence at the facility had somehow leaked despite everyone's efforts at discretion. A local news crew appeared one afternoon hoping to get a story about the country music star visiting a nursing home. Reba agreed to a brief interview, but only on her terms. "I'm here visiting an old friend," she told reporter Amanda Foster from Channel 8 News. "What I've discovered is that there are dozens of wonderful people here who have been forgotten by society. These aren't just residents, they're retired teachers, veterans, small business owners, parents and grandparents who built our communities. They deserve better than to be warehoused and ignored." The interview, which was meant to be a brief human interest story, turned into something much larger when Reba spontaneously invited the camera crew to film her and Tommy together. Tommy, having one of his clearest days yet, spoke eloquently about their childhood friendship and how proud he was of Reba's success. "She always said she'd be famous," Tommy told the camera with a smile. "But she was already famous to me, even when we were 8 years old, because she had the biggest heart of anyone I knew." The segment aired that evening and was picked up by national news networks within hours. The story of the country music superstar who had tracked down her forgotten childhood friend resonated with viewers across the country. Social media exploded with comments from people sharing their own stories of lost friends and forgotten seniors. Within 48 hours, the story had gone viral. Remember, our seniors and Reba and Tommy began trending on social media platforms. People shared photos of their own elderly relatives. Volunteers stepped forward to help at local nursing homes, and donations began pouring in to Reba's newly announced foundation. Dorothy Henderson's daughter called Patricia in tears. "I saw my mother on the news playing piano and singing with Reba McEntire. I haven't seen her that happy in years. I feel so guilty that I don't visit more often." Frederick Johnson's family drove in from 3 states away for an impromptu reunion after seeing him sing on television. His son explained, "We thought he was gone mentally. We had no idea he could still sing like that." But the most significant response came from an unexpected source. Tommy's cousin in California, who had been paying for his care but had never visited, called Patricia Williams in tears. "I saw the news story about Tommy and Reba McEntire," said Michael Williams. "I had no idea he was still so present. I thought the dementia had taken everything. I've been sending money but avoiding visits because I was afraid of seeing him in decline. I'm flying out tomorrow." A week after the story broke, Reba held a press conference at Sunset Manor to announce the establishment of the Tommy Williams Foundation for Senior Care Excellence. Tommy sat beside her, lucid and proud, as she explained the foundation's mission. "This foundation is named for my childhood friend Tommy Williams, not because he's famous, but because he represents every senior citizen who deserves dignity, companionship, and quality care in their golden years," Reba announced. "We're going to start here at Sunset Manor, but our goal is to transform senior care across America." The foundation's initial goals were ambitious: double the staff-to-resident ratio, implement daily music and art therapy programs, create intergenerational volunteer programs connecting local schools and universities with residents, upgrade all facilities and medical equipment, and establish a model that could be replicated at facilities nationwide. Michael Williams, Tommy's cousin, not only reconciled with his long-lost relative but agreed to serve on the foundation's board of directors. "I've been successful in business, but I've failed as family," he admitted to Reba privately. "I want to help make sure other families don't make the same mistake I did." 6 months later, Sunset Manor had been transformed. The staff had doubled, with specialists in dementia care, music therapists, and activity coordinators. The facility had been renovated with bright, cheerful colors and comfortable gathering spaces. Most importantly, the average resident now received visitors 3 times per week, thanks to a volunteer program that had a waiting list of people wanting to help. Tommy's condition had stabilized, and while he still had bad days, his good days were more frequent and more meaningful. He had become something of a celebrity himself, often telling visitors about his friendship with Reba Sue and how proud he was of everything she had accomplished. "You know what the best part is?" he told Reba during one of her weekly visits. "It's not that you're famous, it's not even that you came back for me. It's that you used your fame to help everyone else too. That's the Reba Sue I always knew you'd become." The Tommy Williams Foundation expanded to 12 facilities in its first year, with plans to reach 50 facilities by year 3. Reba incorporated music into all of her concerts now, dedicating at least one song each night to the seniors who built our communities and deserve our respect and love. But perhaps the most meaningful change was in Reba herself. She had rediscovered the purpose behind her success and found peace with her past. Every Friday afternoon, she could be found at Sunset Manor, not as a celebrity making a charitable appearance, but as Reba Sue, sitting with her oldest friend, sharing memories and creating new ones. "Do you ever regret not keeping in touch all those years?" Tommy asked her one autumn afternoon as they sat in the facility's new garden. "I regret the lost time," Reba replied honestly, "but I don't regret the path that led me back to you. Everything I learned, everything I achieved, it all brought me to this moment. And this moment is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Tommy smiled, the same smile that had comforted her through childhood fears and celebrated her childhood dreams. "Well then, Reba Sue, I guess we both ended up exactly where we were meant to be." The story of Reba McEntire and Tommy Williams became more than just a news story or a viral sensation. It became a movement that reminded America about the value and dignity of its senior citizens. It proved that success isn't measured only by fame and fortune, but by the lives we touch and the love we share. And in a small room in Tulsa, Oklahoma, two old friends sat together, proof that some bonds are strong enough to survive time, distance, and even the cruel tricks of memory. Their reunion had touched millions of hearts, but more importantly, it had reminded the world that every senior citizen has a story worth remembering and a life worth celebrating. The foundation continues to grow, Tommy continues to have more good days than bad, and Reba continues to visit every Friday, not as a country music superstar, but simply as a friend who finally found her way home.